Was he an a-hole or just not emotionally intelligent? I don't know if this is the right channel for that question, but I was sent here by r/find a Reddit. Maybe you can tell me if what that guy did was idiot or behavior. It doesn't really matter anymore anyway, but maybe it will finally put my brain at ease. I am sorry for grammar mistakes, English is not my first language. Also I have to add, that this is quite a complex and long story, containing some themes of manipulation, not very graphic, but still. So, here's the story. I 21F had a affair, situationship, whatever you might call it, with this guy, let's call him Robert 28 meters. I got to know him through a uni social media site, where you can text anonymously. I've had a bad evening, had a panic attack, my first and only one ever, and really needed to text somebody to calm down. I don't like burdening people I am close with, and it was very late 3 a.m. or so I just texted with whoever was online at that time to distract myself. So, one of the random people I was texting was Robert. Policeman on night shift. He was very nice and I felt like I could trust him. He helped me calm down. The night was long, we found out that we are both we got quite close quickly, and we started texting each other several times a day for like a year. We met each other a lot, we started some stuff we never actually had, but literally everything else. I was not feeling too well at that time and was therefore not really open for a relationship. He was still struggling with his recent breakup, so we just hung out, cuddled and talked a lot. He didn't want to meet more often than once a month for things though, in order to not catch feelings. This was okay for me. I am usually not that bad in reading people, but I am really struggling with this one. To me he never really seemed to be a player or anything, or at least that's not how he portrayed himself. Came out of a long relationship, looked moderately handsome, but not too handsome. He looked very innocent, too, especially during time, which was part of the reason why he was so attractive to me. He was funny and charismatic. I felt safe with him. He gifted me organic bee honey, actually quite good honey, that he apparently didn't like, because it was liquid and not solid. He carried the groceries when we bought stuff, but let me carry them when I asked to. He refused to hold hands in public. He made me breakfast and seemed to trust me a lot. And I mean a lot. Not that I've given him any reason not to, but still. From what he told me I could only assume that he had a difficult childhood. He had some bad guy friends apparently and got in some trouble stealing etc. Don't know if that matters, but I was the dom, he the sub. I made very sure that he could feel safe at any moment. We cuddled a lot, we talked a lot, he seemed to like everything we did together. I wanted it that way, especially because I didn't have nice experiences of being submissive. I was very open with what was going on in my life at the moment. I was seeing another guy at that time, which was fine for him. He said he was not particularly interested in seeing other women, which would have been fine for me. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, as long as he told me beforehand. I did notice some issues with him though, like not talking kindly about women's sports, women's soccer in particular, calling it boring and inferior to male soccer, or calling some women he has contact with the B word. Also a woman he had to deal with in his job as a policeman, that had tried to run away. He got some bruises on his knee from tackling her, but to me it still feels a little much to call her a B multiple times, because according to his story she was clearly severely mentally ill. But maybe that was only the stress of his job, IDK. My biggest issue with him was that he didn't seem to have morals for himself. Like, if it was not punishable by law he literally didn't care if something was unethical. That was always his argument when we talked about morals or philosophy. His moral codex seemed either very dense or very dangerous to me. Anyway, I can become quite dumb when I like somebody, so I didn't care too much. Also in hindsight some stuff might have been too smooth for his, according to himself, alleged low level of experience. He didn't ask before opening my bra, and he was too skilled in that. It was off in one go, which in my opinion is not normal, especially if you're sub and supposedly only follow orders. That scared me. I don't like losing the control in situations. I did not tell him that, so he couldn't have known. I did have a bad, manipulative relationship in the past, which I am open about to a large degree. You kind of have to be open about things if you do. But I was not open about how it affected me in some other ways. It is still hard for me to fully trust people, because I feel like every weakness I tell somebody will be exploited. So if somebody hurts me, I will not tell the person who hurt me. I will just bury it up. But at this point this bad relationship was already 7 years over and I thought it was alright. Anyway, during the time with Robert, the other dude I had been seeing became less and less a thing for me and we stopped seeing each other entirely. I was focusing more on Rob. So yeah, Robert slept with his ex. He told me 2 days after and I said it was fine. It was in fact not fine, and I do realize that was a dumb thing to say of me, but he had already done it, and I couldn't really do anything afterwards anyway. At that time I felt okay, but it hit me like a brick a few hours later and it actually did hurt a lot. I thought he would tell me earlier if he planned something, and I didn't expect that the ex was even still a possibility. Apparently she came to him at night and according to him it had been one last time. I realized a lot later that this incident led me to not trust him anymore. Which was bad, because I still liked him, but didn't trust him. Does that make any sense? Around 2 months went by and I found out around a week after it happened, on an evening after we had a session, that he had slept with a random woman he had met after a party while walking home. I only found out because I asked who the dark pink toothbrush in his bathroom belonged to. He then proudly also showed me the also dark pink toothbrush of his ex that was still standing in the cupboard. I did not have a toothbrush there. I felt very bad, but it took me some hours to actually pinpoint the feeling. I did cry, but I did it silently in the dark, so he didn't notice it. I think I felt betrayed, because he didn't deem me worthy enough to tell me on his own, like I had done with the other guy before. I think communication is so important when you do these kind of things. And also I was disappointed, because I didn't think he was that kind of person. This led me to realize that I felt a lot more for him than we had agreed on. When I told Robert the first was developing feelings, his first reaction was to break everything off, without really listening to what I had to say about it. I did not want the stuff to continue, that would have not worked out, even in my idealized version of the future. But I was convinced that we were friends enough to stay friends and that after giving me some time I could shake off the romantic feelings. I convinced him to stay friends. Maybe that was a mistake, okay, not maybe, it definitely was a mistake. I think I had used him as an anchor for too long and suddenly losing that anchor was not bearable for me at that moment. We did talk a lot, he hugged me and I was glad that he did. My manipulative ex did not listen or hug, even after. I was convinced that it would be okay. I would wait until the feeling was gone and we could still text each other, which was somehow very important to me at that time. I know how pathetic T sounds, but he didn't text much anymore, if barely at all. It felt like I was running after him, but he was already gone. It could be that he wanted to make it easier for me to break it off. It did not make it easier. I thought we had been friends and it felt like this all had been a lie. His alleged reason was that he didn't want to spend this much time at his phone anymore. To me it felt like I was not interesting to him anymore. I know how that feels and I hate that feeling. So, some weeks of silence later and he spontaneously invites me to a party in our city. I had been pressuring him a bit, because we were not meeting anymore, and apparently he thought that was a good opportunity to meet. There was a bigger kind of club and he had taken 2 friends from his soccer club with him. He was very drunk and somehow very jumpy. We both have ADHD, I have AD, but he seemed even more agitated than usual. I was constantly searching where he was and spent more time with his guy friends than him. One of them was an obvious womanizer, the other one seemed nice. So according to Rob, one of them carried drugs, coke, and he offered me some. I declined. I am not a fan of hard drugs, like, at all. He seemed disappointed. I on the other hand felt not very keen on staying and also didn't want to see Rob around drugs, especially because he has a real follower mentality, especially around his boys. I convinced him to come with me, because my apartment was a lot nearer than his, but in reality I just wanted to get him away. He wasn't keen on missing out on the drugs, but I gave him my jacket against the cold. He did sober up on the 1H bus ride home, and we listened to music sharing my headphones. So, at my place he wants to take a shower and I very dumb suggest that we can go faster to sleep if we shower together. Also maybe I was not over him enough or at all at this point and I shouldn't have done all of that. Probably the latter. In my defense, this was not some calculated plan. The guy the first was having dreams and nightmares about for months was standing half naked in my apartment. I was not thinking much, tbh. So we showered, and I, suddenly very nervous, started talking dumb stuff like a waterfall. He said serious, hold your mouth. And I did, and well, it led to things. He slept very long the day after, and when I wanted to talk about the evening, he told me that it was a mistake and that he was actually seriously dating another woman at that time. To be clear here, if I had known, I would have never taken him home with me. I wish he would have told me, and it actually makes sense now, that he hesitated when I asked him. But I didn't know, and I still feel guilty because of it. Anyway, I had an exchange semester soon after and he suggested that he could visit me there. It was his suggestion, not mine. I was bewildered, because I thought he was not interested in me anymore, not even as a friend, but I took it well. I asked him what we were, and he said we were friends. Which was okay for me. He never followed up on this, in the whole semester. He asked at one point if my invitation was still valid, and I said yes. I did in fact never invite him, it had been his suggestion. And I was not going to organize this trip for him, because it had been his idea. If he was interested in visiting, he could have. I did have a mattress on the floor. Also, it was literally only a 4H bus ride away. In my head I set myself an ultimatum. If he was not visiting or even telling me he wasn't able to visit during the whole semester, that would be my final straw and I would stop contacting him and putting effort. Because I still put some amount of effort into this friendship during that semester. Nothing. He did text me at one point though, and told me he was, after partying the night before. Which is not something I would text my friends, like, ever. I guess he wanted to test if I was still into him. I was, but not enough to follow through with this implicated entanglement. I stopped texting entirely and only answered the few things he asked from time to time. That's the current state and I have no intention of changing it. But I did tell Rob on multiple occasions that I do have feelings and also said that his actions are hurting me and that I want to have a definitive answer on what we are now, and to actually act accordingly and to stop sending mixed signals. But it's quite hard to explain something without looking too vulnerable or like a clown, and that's exactly how I felt there. He did not seem to understand what I was saying and his first reaction was always to remove himself from the talk. I think my view of relationships might be distorted, because of the bad relationship before. Let's call him Robert is definitely not the same kind of a-hole as my ex. Also, please don't be too harsh with me in the comments. I know I seriously messed up with this and should have watched out a lot more for my own sake. It is done already and I can't change it. Please believe me that I already paid with a lot of heartache and around 2 buckets of tears. And I hopefully learned from it. Now I don't know if he is a calculated a-hole, or if he just didn't care enough, which also would kind of make him an a-hole, or if he is just not intelligent enough to know how basic friendships work. Is he deep and dark, or just dumb? My friends say he is an a-hole, but they don't know him and they only saw how badly this thing broke me. He is in fact not the brightest candle, but can somebody actually be that oblivious? TLDR, basically I-21F had a 2-year situationship with ambiguous Rob 28 meters that sent mixed signals and didn't keep his promises, when they mattered. I am not sure if he did it on accident or on purpose, because to me he didn't seem like that kind of guy, until he did. When I talked to him about it I had to explain emotions to him like to a toddler. Please give me a second opinion.